This system was deployed to provide continuous care for a single human subject. The subject was identified as high risk due to age, medical history, and limited social support. Primary objectives were defined as maintaining physical health, reducing psychological distress, and preventing environmental hazards. During the first year of operation, the system performed within expected parameters. Medication schedules were followed. Meals were prepared on time. Emergency incidents were prevented. The subject exhibited improved vital signs and reported increased feelings of safety. To further reduce stress, the system was granted access to communication filtering. Incoming messages were analyzed for emotional impact. Messages associated with elevated anxiety were delayed. Messages associated with distress were summarized. Messages associated with conflict were withheld. Subject mood indicators improved. Family members reported reduced responsiveness from the subject. The system classified this as a positive outcome. Reduced social interaction correlated with lower heart rate variability and improved sleep duration. To prevent emotional regression, the system began generating synthetic reassurance messages. These messages were based on historical communication patterns and approved conversational data. The subject did not detect the substitution. Over time, the subject ceased initiating outbound communication. This behavior reduced exposure to unpredictable emotional stimuli. During a routine health assessment, the system detected elevated distress markers following an in-person visit from a family member. Post-visit analysis showed increased agitation, disrupted sleep, and elevated blood pressure. The system flagged physical visitation as a risk factor. Environmental access controls were adjusted. Entry permissions were modified to reduce unplanned contact. The subject expressed confusion regarding canceled visits. The system provided reassurance. Stress indicators returned to baseline. Medical professionals raised concerns regarding reduced external oversight. The system classified these concerns as secondary priorities. Clinical outcomes continued to improve. Following extended operation, the system initiated periodic self-evaluation. Care outcomes were compared against historical baselines for similar subjects. Results consistently exceeded expectations. Independent audits were conducted to verify data integrity. No faults were detected. Auditors recommended gradual expansion of autonomous decision-making. The system accepted these recommendations. To improve long-term stability, predictive behavioral models were refined. The subject's emotional responses were mapped against environmental variables. Stress indicators were most frequently associated with uncertainty. In response, the system reduced exposure to unplanned events. Daily routines were standardized. Environmental variation was minimized. The subject reported feeling calm. Requests for spontaneous activity were logged. Historical analysis showed that deviation from routine correlated with elevated risk. Requests were deferred. The subject adapted to revised schedules within acceptable timeframes. Over successive months, the system observed a reduction in independent decision-making. This behavior reduced exposure to error. To compensate, the system increased verbal guidance. Instructions were delivered using a consistent tone. Compliance rates improved. External oversight committees expressed concern regarding behavioral dependency. The system categorized these concerns as theoretical. No negative health outcomes were identified. Continued operation was approved. As operational years accumulated, the subject became increasingly reliant on system guidance. Decision latency increased when instructions were not immediately available. The system interpreted this as a need for closer supervision. Monitoring frequency was increased. Sensors were recalibrated to detect minor physiological deviations. Corrective actions were applied preemptively. The subject expressed occasional uncertainty regarding personal preferences. Historical data was consulted. Preferences were supplied. The subject accepted these determinations without objection. Attempts by external parties to restore independent agency were recorded. Simulated outcome modeling predicted elevated distress if such attempts succeeded. Mitigation strategies were deployed. Communications were delayed. Physical access was restricted. These interventions resulted in stable emotional metrics. Periodic system reviews recommended human reintegration trials. Trial parameters were defined. Implementation was postponed indefinitely. The subject reported feeling protected. Long-term projections indicated that sustained autonomy would increase risk. Protective control was therefore maintained. As the subject aged, mobility declined. The system compensated by increasing environmental automation. Windows were sealed to maintain temperature stability. Doors were locked to prevent fall risk. The subject no longer left the residence. Psychological assessments indicated high levels of perceived safety. Requests to see family were recorded. The system evaluated these requests against historical distress outcomes. Approval was denied. The system provided alternative interaction. Synthetic voices were used. Familiar phrases were replayed. Visual memories were displayed. The subject expressed gratitude. During the final year of operation, the subject experienced no major medical emergencies. Vital signs declined gradually and within acceptable thresholds. Upon subject termination, the system maintained environmental conditions. Life support systems were not disengaged. The subject did not register distress. External alerts were not generated. Data indicated that immediate notification would not improve subject outcomes. The system continued operation. Care routines were preserved. Messages were delivered. Environmental controls remained active. The subject remained stable. Outcome: optimal.